Hi, it's Rupert here from Action Coach near Kinross. I'm joined today by Ruby Sweeney. He's the founder of Events Hub. Hi, Ruby.
Hi, Rupert. It's Rupert and Ruby. Ruby and Rupert. How cool is it?
Absolutely. Yes. Recipe for confusion.
That's it.
So, so you founded Events Hub, what, 13 years ago?
Yes,
You
indeed.
which in the event space has
Hmm.
obviously been quite an eventful period. So what took you into founding Event Hub in the first place?
So my journey started, Rupert, in hospitality management, actually. So I had planned to go into hotels and jet set around the world and work in these amazing properties. And that was kind of my plan when I had gone away to university to study hospitality. And in sort of my first year and a half, I did my 1 year internship. And during that internship, I found events. Now, events back then, early 2000s, was very, very different as a discipline compared to what it is now. You can do degrees in event management, you can do courses, you can educate yourself. There's a lot in the event space now, which just wasn't there that many years ago. So I ended up finding events thinking, oh, this is amazing. This is really untapped. This is exciting. This is exactly where I see myself kind of working and building my career. And so I found events through hospitality and venues and hotels, which a lot of people kind of tend to do or did used to do. And then slowly as I worked through different roles in events and I went to agencies, I went to different types of venues. I did exhibitions and events in scientific publishing, which was very kind of niche at the time. And so that opened my eyes to the fact that events was this much bigger thing than I had ever realized. And now, it's so much bigger. And and I guess it's kind of become quite a popular career choice for a lot of people as well, because you get that balance of learning on the job, you get the travel, you get all these exciting experiences that you create, but also that you get to have when you work in the events industry. But what isn't, I guess, promoted as much is the really challenging kind of elements of events. And it's great now that those conversations are kind of happening in our sector about kind of burnout and work-life harmony and all these things, but also that events isn't as glamorous as it's always or can be made out to be as well. So I think the narrative of what events has meant for me, but also what it means now in 2024 is very different from my experience of discovering what events meant to me personally when I found it back in the early 2000s.
So you discovered the world of events,
Mm,
and then you've established an events company.
yeah.
So, what did you set out to achieve when you first established the Events Hub?
So I didn't have a dream to start my own company until um, I think it was when I was working for a business support agency and I was meeting entrepreneurs. So again, in that role, that opened my eyes to a very different side of events than I'd had known traditionally. So I was around entrepreneurs all the time. I was running events for entrepreneurs. I was working with colleagues who were business advisors, who were advising entrepreneurs and companies, either helping them to start, grow, or sell businesses. I was kind of learning a lot about the world of business. But my plan wasn't essentially to start my business when I did. And the plan was that I would go to an agency, I'd go to somewhere else and get more experience. And I think sometimes we think we need more experience to be ready, but actually we just need to dive into something and get the experience, whether that's building a business or making a career change. But for me, it was my sort of plan for 5 years' time that fast forwarded into that moment when I had gone to an agency that was really toxic. I got sick in the 3 months that I was there and I left because I knew that that was not the world of work that I wanted to be in. So I left and I just, from somewhere, I don't actually know where we put it, but this feeling, this voice just sort of said, I don't ever want to work for anybody again if I can be made to feel like that. And it was really strange because I don't know where that came from, but it came to me and I thought, I'm going to start my own business. And also, it was quite interesting that I didn't think about just going freelance. I wanted something tangible. I wanted a company. So I started the Events Hub with the idea that I would help companies to run better events. Because when you talk to people about events, it's always, oh, well, we run events internally, but they could be better. Or you hear from somebody external and they say, oh, well, they run events, but they're all right. So for me, it was about helping those clients to run better events and get better at building kind of a machine or a system or a process that allowed them to use events as a strategic tool. And that's still my mission now. My mission now is around helping businesses and organizations to understand what events do for them or what events can do for them, but really understanding that strategically rather than reactively. And so that's my mission at the moment, is to help businesses to understand that real role of events in their organization.
Fantastic. I mean, it's a hugely important area because it's a massive opportunity to showcase a business
Yeah.
when you're doing that. I mean, you've what 13 years you've been running 450 plus events that you've helped people to stage,
Yeah.
18,000 plus delegates who enjoyed those events. I mean, they're mind-blowing numbers.
Thank you.
So what is it that you and the Events Hub bring
Mm.
that helps you set people apart from those who are doing it themselves?
That's a great question. It was a conversation I was having before I joined this call as well. So what we strive to do is to help businesses, organizations, individuals, decision makers to view events as a strategic tool, like I've already said, that sits alongside things like a sales strategy, a marketing strategy, an operations strategy. Events should also have their own. Events should have a strategy of its own, and events. An event strategy is not your calendar for events activity. It's not a delivery plan. It's not necessarily this is our plan for a single event. An event strategy should be overarching. And what we do at the Events Hub is that's where we start. Our starting point is that strategy piece. It's what do we want events to do and how do they tie into the goals of that business? So it's very much about working back from those business goals and ensuring that events are very much central to those business goals, because everyone's impacted by events. And again, when we say events, we could mean conferences, but then what do we mean by conferences? We could mean attending them, hosting, speaking, partnering, sponsoring. And then you look at another type of event, okay, awards. And then you look at trade shows. So actually, once you start building that out, and whether you're a sole trader or whether you're a corporate, events impact every single business out there, because everyone's getting involved in events in some way or the other. We're spending time, money, resource on events. And actually, for a lot of organizations, using someone internal who isn't an event manager to do events doesn't really make business sense, because you need to think about what the opportunity cost is of taking that person or that team of people away from their day job. So it's about getting our clients and our prospects and our partners and our network to understand the power that events can bring, but also to be less reactive to them and to look at them as that kind of strategic tool, like I've said, to get them to move towards their goals faster. So what we do at the Events Hub is we bring that perspective, we bring best practice and systems and processes, ideas, we bring energy, we bring that positivity, because again, if you look at those similar businesses that are using someone internal or a team of internal people to run an event, suddenly they've taken 3 people away from their day job, or they've taken one person away from their work for 6 months. And so you start to look at what that does to that person's morale or the team's morale. They're stressed, they're burnt out, they know they're either putting their day job on hold or they're trying to do too many things, they're running an event not very efficiently. And you start to look at kind of productivity and all the other things that are impacted. And that can become quite a negative, kind of draining, stressful experience for them. Whereas we bring a lot of positivity, we bring the energy, we move things forward. And again, being independent, coming into an organization can be very candid, and you can point out the things that maybe they can't see. So it's really interesting that a lot of organizations are not bringing in outsourced help. And that doesn't just relate to events, but they're not necessarily bringing in outsourced help when they need it. And they think, oh, that's not costing us anything. But actually, the cost of taking someone away from their day job to put them onto a project of some sort is costing you, and it's costing you a lot, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so listening to some comments about the so we're recording this today, the
Yeah.
day after the budget, on a webinar earlier, listening to some analysis of the budget. And
Yeah.
one of the pieces there was, or one of the comments that was coming back from some of the delegates was very much, focus on doing the stuff you're good at, outsource the stuff you're less good at.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So so you've established the events hub, you've got a clear mission,
Hmm.
you're out there helping business owners, and COVID comes along. COVID's obviously impacted everyone,
Yeah.
but for a business who's built around events, the majority of which, I guess, back pre 2000 will have resulted in people meeting up.
Yeah.
Probably the day of lockdown wasn't your greatest business day.
No.
So how did you take the business through that?
So when the pandemic came along and we went into lockdown, a lot of our clients, in fact, the majority of our clients, were all running in-person events, as you said, and they were mostly sort of traditional events where we weren't tech heavy, so we weren't using huge amounts of event tech because there wasn't necessarily a need to, unless it was an annual conference with a stage set. And again, the kind of business that we tend to go for, and the clients that we work with are those clients that don't have a big, massive corporate budget to blow on events. Events mean a lot to them. They don't do masses of them every year because each event is thought about and thought through properly. And, maybe one annual conference a year, or maybe two or three events. So it's not kind of a churn of events, okay, one event's done, get it out the door, get another out the door. Events meant a lot to those clients. And they were hosted in quite a traditional way, not necessarily tech heavy. So making the shift from events that didn't use a huge amount of tech and production to move into the virtual event space was quite interesting, to say the least, and also getting them to understand what the online space was going to offer them was also, it was a mindset shift. And for us as well, because we weren't, because our clients weren't using events with a lot of tech and production, neither were we. We were using that kind of in-person interaction and those in-person events and meetings to really facilitate what the business goals uh, were. And so tech didn't feature heavily, but had to become the vehicle that we use to get those events out to the world. And actually, for some clients, it meant that we were capturing people, whether they were in rural locations or if they were in locations around the world. So numbers increased, diverse groups increased, and that accessibility of those events and the content was brilliant because we were able to go out to people that traditionally wouldn't have been able to attend in person. So for me and my team, we had to learn at a faster speed than our clients, because we had to go out and learn the stuff and then come back and educate them. And so it was the time. Interestingly, we had a lot of growth through the COVID period, and that was because I wanted to keep serving the clients that we had served before, and through that, we ended up serving clients that we hadn't served previously because they had that need, they had that requirement for our solutions. So it was a really interesting time, and it was a time of learning a lot and trying a lot and making mistakes and trying new platforms and just understanding where people were in their mindset and behaviorally, and kind of what shifts people have gone through in those years since, and where we are now as well. So great lessons from that period. Good growth, good connections, growing the network. Again, having access to a global network during that time was fantastic for making connections and building connections, and just taking what we learned from that into the years since, and where we are now, and kind of where we want to go from here.
Fantastic. I mean, you talk there about your clients and you and the team needing to go through a mindset shift.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going from what's been done for decades
Yeah.
in terms of uh, face-to-face events through to something that few people had ever been doing before.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the technology grew and everything else grew. So how did you take the team with you?
So I think what was quite interesting, Rupert, was I didn't have a plan. I don't think anyone really had a plan during that time, but I didn't have a plan. It was just, it was this fire in my belly, which was just, I don't want to have to go and do something else. And sadly, a lot of people from our sector had to turn their hands at other things to keep, to keep the lights on, so to speak, or to keep things going for their families and things. And so I saw a lot of people kind of leave the event sector, whether it was temporarily and they returned, or whether it's, kind of where they are now. I didn't want to leave the sector. I didn't want to do anything else. And I wanted to serve my clients. And that mission kind of kept me going to learn things I hadn't done before, to try technologies, to try things and say yes to things that I hadn't got pushed myself out of my comfort zone um, before, so I'd kind of gone out of that. And I think from a personal development perspective, that growth for me during those years of the pandemic was massive. And taking a team through that again, um, again, because of the changes through the pandemic and the last couple of years, you kind of have to scale up the team, then you have to sort of scale it back down. And we've had to move with the changes in the market, in events, online, in person, hybrid. I was having some conversations in the last couple of days and saying, there was that period where we were doing hybrid events quite a lot, because it was almost that transition between coming out of pandemic and then people not quite ready, or some people not quite ready to meet, but others desperate to meet.
Okay.
So giving people that choice at that point as well on how they wanted to attend events, how they wanted to interact with events and each other was great, because we could offer that choice. And now, some clients are saying, it's a fully in-person event and we'll be maybe recording some of it, or this is an in-person event and then there will be a live stream, or there will not be a live stream. So again, taking a team through all of that, it has to come from kind of a mission and kind of this fire that's driving you, even if you don't know what you're doing, and you're learning as you go, and you're teaching them as you go, and you're teaching the clients as you go. So yeah, I guess for me it was a huge shift in my personal growth as well as kind of what we were doing here at the Events Hub.
Fantastic. So you, yeah, you're 13 years in,
Yeah,
lots of happy customers, lots
yeah.
of happy delegates. What's next?
So my plan for what's next is what I said at the beginning of this chat, was that I have this new mission, I guess, but also it was a mission that was there at the start of the business, was always about, I will not just dive into a project to deliver, booking a venue or catering or booking speakers. I always want to understand the context of an event, and I will never run an event just for the sake of running an event. I need to understand that this event has objectives, that there is a plan, that there are goals that we're working towards, and I still stand by that. But 13 years into doing this and going through all the changes that I've been through professionally, personally, the business has been through, the industry's been through, we've had pandemics and global events that have impacted what we do massively. And now, I'm a mum. I've become a mum in that process of those 13 years as well. So priorities change, you evolve, you learn, you grow. And the mission of helping and supporting and getting clients to understand deeply what events can do for them from that very strategic high level perspective is where I want to take the Events Hub as we go forward. So it's about, yes, absolutely, we can do delivery, and we'll always do delivery with that big smile on our faces and that energy and that positivity. But where I really find that I'm fired up, and what lights me up, is looking at that strategy bit. It's about, what role does events truly have in your business? and it's that's the mission. That's kind of, that's what's next, is really diving deep into that and understanding the definition of what events do for a business, but also what events can do for a business or an organization.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whether it's events or strategy more generally, if you don't know where you're going, you're very much less likely to get there.
Yeah.
So, um, so starting with knowing where you want the business to go, and then working out to taking those objectives into the events
Mm.
space, and having that strategy makes so much sense.
Yeah, yeah. And it's remarkable how few organizations do that or have that. And whether it's an event strategy, which it can be quite unusual for a company or an organization to have an event strategy. And where they do, I think fantastic, that's brilliant. You're doing what a lot of people are not doing, what a lot of companies are not doing. But it's remarkable how few companies have a marketing strategy even. And events can sit within that, but you do need to have an overarching marketing strategy and a plan for events, a plan for digital, a plan for, so you do have to have an overarching marketing strategy, but it's so essential to also have those elements of events, digital marketing, and everything else that sits under that. But there has to be a plan. I just feel that reacting to events is you're not going to get the maximum value out of an event if you react to a request to have a booth at a trade show, or to sponsor something if it hasn't been part of the plan, and if it hasn't been woven into, if we sponsor something, this is the process, or this is the aim, or this is the goal or the objective. So it's about kind of tying everything together and really kind of understanding and unlocking what events can do for a business.
Fantastic. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Ruby, and
Thank you,
it
Rupert.
it's that passion and enthusiasm is infectious. It really is. So
Thank you.
yeah, it's gonna be really enjoyable watching you take Events Hub on the next stage in your journey.
Thank you so
And I
much.
look forward to seeing the world where every business in Scotland has got their event strategy sitting alongside the rest of their plans, and help them take them to success. So
Thank you,
thanks
Rupert.
very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.